And now to our major story. President Muhammadu Buhari wants to borrow more money. They say it's for capital projects. The presidency says that we shouldn't fret, that this borrowing is not going to increase Nigeria's borrowing portfolio. Well, Nigeria's main opposition party is not convinced about that statement. The PDP believes the president is mortgaging Nigerian children's future. The party said they are shocked by the government's borrowing, insisting that it is needless and mindless. The PDP said, and I quote now, "Like other well-meaning Nigerians, we consider this new bid for a foreign loan of $5.5 billion being sought by the administration of President Buhari as an attempt to push the nation down into the black hole of debt that will affect negatively the future of this nation." End of quote. I have joining me tonight Mr. Martin Onoebt, an oil and gas engineer, engineering consultant, and a former presidential candidate at the 2015 general election of the National Conscience Party, NCP. Also joining this conversation, I have Ken Okolugbo, a political analyst and a member of the PDP. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
The PDP did say, well, APC and the Buhari government is mortgaging the future of Nigeria. And when we wonder, how easy is it to run a capital project or capital project like road infrastructure, rail, and all of that without major borrowing? Mr. Onovo.
Well, it is really easy, because that's your question, how easy is it? The first statement I would like to make is that there is no amount of money that is sufficient for the corrupt or for the prodigal. Get that very clear. No amount of money is sufficient for the corrupt. No amount of money is sufficient for the prodigal.
The relevance of that into this?
The government is deliberately misinforming and confusing the Nigerian people. Let us go back to the figures they cannot change, because the government is used to presenting a document. You show the folly in the document, they withdraw it, present a different one. You have a budget of 7.4 trillion, thereabouts. Total estimated national revenue in the 2017 budget is 4.9 trillion, 4.9 something. Now, that is a deficit of about 2.4 trillion, which you need to borrow. Right or wrong?
Absolutely.
Good. Now, in that same budget, capital expenditure is about 2.18. What does that tell you? You're borrowing more than what you require for your capital expenditure. What does that mean? You're borrowing to pay debt. What does that mean? You're already in a debt trap. You're not going to be, the PDP doesn't understand it. We're not heading to a debt trap. We're already in a debt trap. We're heading to a debt crisis.
Is borrowing, and this will come to a question I will ask Mr. Okolugbo, is borrowing a problem or a mistake in the budgeting process or in an economy?
It depends on the perspective you are going to look at it. You can't say borrowing is a mistake in any economy. But, for example, the borrowing of $5.5 billion that has been sent to the Senate amounts to 1,980 billion naira. Let's just say 2 trillion naira. Now, the budget says they can borrow 2.3 trillion. If you check what the GDP is 2.18, within 2.18 of the GDP. Now, ask yourself, where are we applying this borrowing? Apart from the Mambila Plateau, I have a problem with the $1.4 billion that you're applying on the Lagos-Ibadan railway project. Why do I have a problem with that? Fashola needs 25 billion naira to add up to the 10 billion he has paid for the Lagos-Ibadan road. And now only 10 billion was released to Fashola by the Senate. And he cried foul about it. 72 billion was sitting down in the ministry, in the TSA account for the Ministry of Transportation for 1 year without utilizing the 72 billion. The 72 billion was supposed to be the counterpart funding for the $1.4 billion that is needed from the China Exim Bank. Is that not a misplaced priority?
No, because
to me, it's a misplaced priority. Because why not give Fashola 25 billion?
Are you bothered?
From the 72 billion that was sitting down in the account of Ministry of Transportation, idle for 1 year. Is
it a crime to borrow? It's
not a crime to borrow, but I've just shown you that the government has not laid its priorities in terms of borrowing. Because when you borrow 1.4 billion and you're looking for 72 billion naira as counterpart funding for a rail line that you say you cannot commission until December 2018, of what impact is it going to be rather than giving Fashola 25 billion naira for him to complete the 6 lanes from Ibadan to Lagos Road and opening up that whole stretch and completing the Shagamu to the almost Ijebu-Ode end that has been completed from Ijebu-Ode to Benin of the Lagos Benin Expressway. We're talking about priorities. We're not talking about borrowing. Don't forget that Lagos State government. Don't forget that Lagos State government has borrowed about 603 billion. But we can see where Lagos State government is putting in those funds into, and the results. That's exactly what that's the comparison I'm trying to make in terms of looking at it on the scale of preference.
Mr. Onovo, if you look at the projects that the federal government has put forward, where they are putting some of these borrowings into, and they've said that they're going to use the money into issues of the Mambila power project, the rail issues, are those novel for you?
You didn't listen to me. You must do infrastructure. There's no question about that. Do you have to borrow? I do not think so. Chief Dr. Obasanjo, GCFR, FNSE, during his tenure, got us out of serious debt. How many years ago was that? Now you're rushing back into the debt. Let me quote Henry Boyo, because I like the way he put it. He said, Mumu smiles back into a debt trap. This is Mumurish.
Because you contested to be a president in 2015, which of course you lost in that election.
Don't say that again. You have said it before, and we didn't agree on that.
No, but you lost the election.
No. The election was rigged. Don't go there.
The 2015 election.
Bring another.
But you did not win. Either case, but you did not challenge
the APC did not win, and they know they didn't win.
And they're in power. No, but it's a question. This is science. Politics is science. It is not conjectures. No. Okay. The question I'm asking.
You cannot discuss Nigeria and remove corruption.
Okay. Let me ask you the question. Let me put the question straight to you. If you were to be Nigeria's president today, with all of the economic situation and the challenges that Nigeria faces right now, how would you tackle the project if you were a president without borrowing?
Very simple. You have an over-bloated recurrent expenditure. We answered this question during our campaigns, but you chose to listen to who you wanted, who promised you 4 million houses. Show me one house. We told you we were going to cut down on recurrent expenditure and raise money for capital development. We told you that.
Where?
During the campaign.
How would you raise
it? It's very simple. You cut down your recurrent expenditure.
How do you do that? You sack your people.
You don't have to sack your people.
Workers. How do you cut down?
You don't have a National Assembly, which by law, by the Constitution of Nigeria, should be earning 2.5 or 2-point-something million per annum. You have one person earning over 200 million per annum. That's one. You don't have a presidency that spends 3.6 billion in a year in Asoro Clinic, and you don't have syringes, and the X-ray machine is not working. What is wrong with you? These things are simple. You're defending the ruling party.
No, I'm not defending.
You don't do that.
I'm the moderator of this program.
You're defending them. You don't do that.
I will put questions to you, Mr. Onovo. If they
don't put the question that we lost the election because you know the election was rigged.
If that statement unsettles you, I mean, it's a fact, but I'm sorry it upsets you. But the question here...
Let's deal with the numbers.
No, the figures are
deal with the numbers.
And the fact remains that...
Do you agree?
The question is, how would you tackle this kind of problem?
We have told you that
borrowing.
You reduce recurrent expenditure. That's the first step.
And you mentioned the National Assembly.
That's only one side.
Yeah.
That's only one side. I mentioned that because that's popular. People understand it faster. I also mentioned Asoro Clinic. Now, when you look at that budget, where the Office of Vice President is using 4 million to buy books in a year, look at the budget you're talking about. That budget We came to this, your Channels TV, and we called the 2016 budget a budget of ruination in January. By June, the country went into a recession. By September, everybody was shouting. If you had listened to us when we were here, we wouldn't be in this mess.
But we are out now.
No, it's very simple.
The nation is out, isn't it?
These are the stories you tell yourself.
Mr. Onovo, it's a question. The nation is out of recession.
You are in an economic stagflation. That is where you are. That is where you have been. I have defined it for you on this program, Politics Today.
Let me show you. Let me show you this graph, and I want Mr. Okolibo to quickly weigh in on this. This is the statistics from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics about the figure of Nigeria's debt profile. If you look at it, how it has grown from 2015, 2016, and 2017. With my little mathematics and my little economic knowledge and understanding, it is not your debt that matters, it's perhaps your capacity. Do we have capacity to be able to bear this debt burden, Mr. Okolibo?
You know, I said it earlier. I said it was within the 2.18% of our GDP. But do we have the capacity? We don't have the capacity. It's obvious we don't have the capacity. Why do I say this? Because if you look at
a lot of people, a lot of people will ask you, Lagos State perhaps has the highest debt burden in the nation.
But I just told you that Lagos State it's indebted to 603 billion. But we can see where Lagos State has put in those funds and the capacity to pay back. Now, you're looking at, for example, we are owing a total of $57.39 billion. Of the $57.39 billion we owe, the federal government is $45 billion.
That's not correct.
As at February, no, I'm giving you the statistics. As at February, no, hold on.
It's $69 billion.
No, I'm giving you statistics.
Office.
Hold on. The statistics before this borrowing is $45 billion for the federal government and 11 for the federal government. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Yes, then $11 billion for the state government. What are we trying to say here? Is that why we're talking about restructuring? 32% to 67%. What does that give you? Federal government has 67%. The states have 32%. All right. And we have 36 states for the federal capital territory.
Just for a moment, we take a breather. But when we come back, there's another touching issue here, and that's the issue of allegations in the NNPC, where the two men in this issue may have reconciled. But how do we reconcile these corruption allegations? That's where we put a sense into when we return from this break. Join us again, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. You probably have seen this picture, but we will show you in case you have not. Well, these two men, Dr. Ibekachuku and Mr. Mekanti Baru. I mean, the NNPC boss and the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources. If there is anything that picture tells us, letters can be harshly worded, but when we see face to face, we can bury our differences. Dr. Ibekachuku and Dr. Baru met on Tuesday for the first time since their disagreement broke out and agreed to continue working together. Well, that is fine and healthy too for the sector. But what about those allegations in the leaked letters? The conversations continue here on the program with Mr. Martin Onoebt, presidential candidate of the NCP, and Mr. Ken Okolibo, a regular analyst, a political analyst, and a member of the PDP here. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for staying with us. Let me quickly come back to you. You have the experience as an oil and gas engineer, and the kind of situation that we have seen. You perhaps have read a letter from that was leaked from Dr. Ibekachuku to the president, and some of the issues raised, and the response from Mr. Baru, who is an institution person. He's been in the NNPC for ages now. Where do we go from here? They may have reconciled. But how do we reconcile some of these issues of appointments, the issues of the contracts? What do you make of it, Mr. Onovo?
Well, if you talk about reconcile, that's the word you choose to use. What I will call that is a political cover-up of the biggest contract scam in the history of Nigeria.
Is that the biggest we've seen?
Tell me which one is bigger. $24 billion? 9 trillion? Excuse me, sir. 9 trillion? But you and I just talked about total estimated national revenue in the 2017 budget being 4.9 trillion. You're talking about 9 trillion worth of contracts? What if that contract were in reality valued at 20% of that. It means that as a country we have lost 80% of that. Do you know what you're saying? Let me tell you. Dr. Baru has confessed himself in the NNPC press release that he's insubordinate and he's lawless.
How?
He has confessed.
How did he say that?
I
read the letter.
Very good. The NNPC press release. He said no law requires him to review contracts with the chairman of NNPC board, which is Kachuku. That's number one. That statement is insubordinate. If you read the letter accuses him of two things specifically, and you don't go outside the letter. The letter accuses him of insubordination. That NNPC press release confirms that he's insubordinate because he's affirming that I am insubordinate. That's number one. Number two, that letter, if you read it properly, what it means is that I am above the law. That's what it means. Because the NNPC board is not a presidential committee. It is a creation of the NNPC Act. That is Nigerian law. So what he's saying, I am above the law. That is the meaning. This is typical APC. This is a cover-up.
How do you mean it's a cover-up?
They have spoken to the minister and spoken to Baru, cover-up. This is a cover-up.
That's a conjecture.
It's a conjecture.
We have not heard from the presidency on this matter.
You have not heard from the presidency?
We have not heard from the presidency on this matter.
But we are told, and you informed us, that Kachuku went to meet the president.
Yes.
When he came out, what did you inform us that he did?
We saw that.
So what are we supposed to hear?
He said no comment.
No comment. Good. So we have heard him. It's no comment. And then, thereafter, you have to add the things together. Both what they say and the actions they take, because actions speak louder than words. You had no comment, and then two of them are directed to smile to you. Then Channels TV, you catch a clip, and then that is a story for $24 billion. Excuse me. If we continue like this country is going to be ruined. We cannot continue like this, especially the media. We cannot. You just stayed here. We talked about total estimated national revenue for 2017 being 4.9. Somebody wants 9 trillion worth of contracts without due process, and you are telling me it's okay, and you're telling me they are smiling, and you're telling me you covered it.
Mr. Onovo, I mean, if we are asking you a question and we are bringing this kind of issue.
No, I must highlight
no, but when you're putting the blame to the media, it's rather unfortunate.
No, the media need to be clear about the implications for the country.
Yeah, sometimes we know more than you know.
Excellent.
Mr. Okolugbo.
That is transparent. Tell us what you know.
On this issue, and that's why we're bringing it to the table.
Okay.
So the issue here now is the fact that we've seen these two men. How would you expect the presidency to handle this matter? Because from reports that we gather, it does look like those contracts were approved.
You see, the sad thing about it is, first and foremost, Mr. Barrow claims those contracts were approved by the president. The president was ill at that particular point in time. And if the president was ill, it therefore means that he should have gone through the acting president. And so it was illegal for the president, even being the Minister of Petroleum, to have had any approval without going to FEC. If the acting president and FEC didn't see those contracts, just like Mr. Kachuku implied, then it therefore means that whatever Barrow did was very wrong. How can you talk of a contract of $25 billion? Let us even look at it, $25 billion. That's exactly what I'm saying. And you say the chairman of the NNPC board, which is supposed to be the check and balance that you have, it does not need to know about you awarding a contract of $25 billion. Now let's assume without considering let's assume without considering let's assume without considering he's talking about direct purchase and direct sales, which is what we have been saying they should probe since. Because this idea of giving out crude and collecting petroleum is where they have had a lot of leakages in NNPC. And nothing has been done about it. We thought this would have changed. They accused Desiani, and we are hearing about all the billions and houses and trillions of naira being recovered from Desiani. And we have always known that the rough in the system has been with the petroleum ministry.
Remember, in
why has this check and balance of the
NNPC? Hold on. Saying? Remember, don't forget that one of the things that the NNPC did put out there in the statement is that some of these contracts were under Mr. Dr. Onoebt Kachuku when it was GMD. Those
were three projects. That's the Ajokuta Kaduna Rail, pipeline project. What I am talking about is the issue of the crude term contract and the direct sale and direct purchase. This is one conduit pipe that has been used in making sure that a lot of funds, and you see when they term it like this, you know when you exchange goods and there is no monetary exchange of goods, you say those funds are paid into the single treasury account.
Let me allow Mr. Onovo to close for us in just about 30 seconds because of our time. Okay, you're an oil and gas expert. Yes. How do we get out of this doldrums? If you are the president today, what would you do? Just in 30 seconds.
Nobody will do this kind of thing and get away with it. This is the highest level of economic sabotage. Nobody will do this. If I'm president, nobody will dare it. Nobody will dream it. Because there are consequences in law. It's not about me. It's about allowing due process and allowing the law take its course. You wouldn't do this.
Would you step down as the Minister of Petroleum? Because, I mean, if you're the president.
It's not about whether he steps down. It's about let everybody comply with the laws. Let everybody comply with due process.
All right. Always a pleasure having you, Mr. Martin Onoebt. Thank you so much, presidential candidate of the NCP, and Mr. Ken Okolubo, regular analyst on Channels Television.
Always my pleasure.
Thank you so much. And that's our show, everyone. Thank you so much for being part of it. I'm Seun Wakimale. Bye for now.